The email from my mother arrived Monday morning. Subject line: Hartfield Country Club Annual Meeting Family Attendance. Sophie, your father and I are attending the annual member meeting at Hartfield this Saturday. We're bringing your brother Ethan and his fiancée Caroline, plus Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia. The members' table seats 8 and we're at capacity. Besides, these meetings can be quite tedious. Lots of budget discussions and facility planning. Not really your thing. We'll fill you in on anything important. Love, Mom. Not my thing. I stared at the email while sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor, overlooking the city. My family had been members of Hartfield Country Club for 12 years. Dad joined when his accounting firm made him partner, treating the membership like proof he'd finally made it. My older brother Ethan was a real estate agent who'd recently closed his biggest deal. Every family gathering for 6 months had centered on Ethan's success, the house he was buying, his upcoming wedding. When I mentioned my work, Mom would pat my hand. That's wonderful, dear. Then she'd turn back to Ethan to discuss his commission structure. Dad would nod absently before asking Ethan about networking strategies. I was a financial analyst at an investment firm. At least that's what I told them 3 years ago, because explaining made their eyes glaze over. They heard finance and filed me away as someone who worked with spreadsheets. What they didn't know was that I was Chief Investment Officer at Redstone Capital Management, one of the most prestigious private equity firms in the region. I managed a portfolio worth $4.7 billion and sat on the boards of 17 companies we'd acquired, including the holding company that owned Hartfield Country Club. 6 months ago, Redstone acquired Prestige Leisure Holdings, a portfolio of luxury country clubs and private facilities. Hartfield was the crown jewel. As CIO overseeing the leisure acquisitions division, I'd personally negotiated the purchase, reviewed the membership structure, and approved the capital improvement plan. The acquisition came with automatic ownership board seats for key Redstone executives. I held one. My name was listed in the member directory under ownership board, with platinum founder status, the highest tier. My family's membership was gold standard, respectable but 3 tiers below mine. I looked at Mom's email again. Not really your thing. The annual meeting where I'd be sitting at the ownership board table, literally running the meeting as one of 5 board members controlling the club's operations. I replied, understood. Enjoy the meeting. Then I confirmed my attendance with the club's general manager, Robert Sterling. Saturday afternoon, I arrived at 2 o'clock wearing a navy blue dress. Robert met me at the entrance. Miss Chen, wonderful to see you. The ownership board table is ready. We've arranged seating as you requested. Board members at the front, platinum members in the second tier, gold and silver in the general section. Perfect. Is the presentation ready? Absolutely. The capital improvements overview and the new tiered access system. We walked through the main corridor. As we passed the lounge, I glimpsed my family arriving. Dad wore his club blazer with the Hartfield crest, his pride and joy. Mom had on a cream suit. Ethan and Caroline looked country club perfect. Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia were admiring the renovated bar. Dad was talking to another member, gesturing expansively. Fantastic turnout. We're seated at one of the prime members' tables. Great visibility, excellent networking. None of them noticed me passing with the general manager. The ballroom was arranged precisely. At the front on a platform sat the ownership board table, 5 seats with name placards. Behind it, a screen displaying the Hartfield crest and Annual Member Meeting 2025. The second tier had tables for platinum members. Behind those, tables for gold and silver members. I took my seat at the board table. My nameplate read, Sophie Chen, CIO, Redstone Capital Management, Ownership Board. To my left was Richard Hartfield III, Chairman. To my right was Margaret Winters, CEO of Winters Property Group. Sophie, Margaret greeted me. Ready for the membership benefits presentation? I expect some reactions to the new tier structure. They'll adjust. The platinum benefits justify the distinction. The ballroom filled quickly. I watched my family enter and locate table 47 in the middle section. Dad looked pleased with the placement. Mom arranged her notepad. Ethan was already networking with nearby members. They still hadn't seen me. At 3 o'clock, Richard stood and approached the podium. Good afternoon. Welcome to Hartfield's annual meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our ownership board. He gestured to our table. I'm Richard Hartfield III, board chairman. Joining me are Margaret Winters, CEO of Winters Property Group, James Crawford, principal at Crawford Development, Robert Chin of Chin Ventures, and Sophie Chin, chief investment officer at Redstone Capital Management, who led the acquisition that brought Hartfield into the Prestige Leisure Holdings family. The spotlight illuminated our table. I offered a brief wave as polite applause filled the room. I could see my family clearly. Mom's hand froze halfway to her water glass. Dad's expression shifted from proud to confused to shocked. Ethan stared with his mouth open. Caroline grabbed her phone. Uncle Douglas was cleaning his glasses as if that would change what he was seeing. Richard continued. Redstone Capital acquired Prestige Leisure Holdings 6 months ago. That acquisition has brought tremendous benefits. Capital for improvements, enhanced programming, expanded amenities. The executive overseeing this transition has been Sophie Chin. Sophie, would you present the upcoming changes? I moved to the podium. The first slide appeared. Membership Benefits Restructuring 2025. Thank you, Richard. Good afternoon. Over 6 months, we've analyzed Hartfield's operations and membership satisfaction. Today I'm sharing several enhancements. Next slide, tiered access system. We're introducing a refined tier structure. Platinum founder members receive priority access to all facilities, unlimited guest privileges and complimentary premium services. Gold standard members will have 4 guest visits per quarter, with additional visits available through day pass purchase. Silver Classic members will have 2 quarterly guest visits. Murmurs rippled through the room. I saw Dad lean toward Mom, whispering urgently. They were losing unlimited guest access. Additionally, we're implementing access card updates. All members will receive new cards reflecting their tier status with appropriate facility access. Next slide. Capital improvements, $8.3 million investment. Redstone is investing $8.3 million in facility upgrades over 18 months. New tennis courts, expanded fitness center, renovated dining facilities and a spa addition. Funded entirely by Redstone with no special assessments to members. The murmurs turned positive. Finally, we're introducing quarterly member appreciation events. Our first event next month is a wine tasting, limited to 100 attendees. Priority registration opens Monday for Platinum members, Wednesday for Gold, Friday for Silver. I returned to my seat as Richard took over for the budget overview. Throughout his presentation I felt eyes on me. My family's table was engaged in intense whispered conversation. Dad kept glancing toward the board. Mom had her phone out, probably searching my LinkedIn. After 40 minutes, Richard adjourned and invited everyone to the reception. As members filed out, I stayed at the board table reviewing notes with Margaret. I saw my family approaching, Dad leading with Mom close behind. They stopped at the platform's edge. Robert Sterling stepped forward. Excuse me, the board members are in session. If you'd like to speak with Ms. Chin, I can schedule an appointment. It's fine, Robert, I said. This is my family. His eyebrows rose slightly. Of course. He stepped away. Dad spoke first. Sophie, we had no idea. You're on the ownership board? You're a chief investment officer? You acquired this club. Redstone acquired Prestige Leisure Holdings, which owns this club. I led that acquisition as part of my portfolio responsibilities. Mom's voice was pleading. Why didn't you tell us? You said you were a financial analyst. I said that 3 years ago when I was a senior analyst. I've been promoted twice, to director of acquisitions then CIO. I tried sharing that at Christmas dinner 2 years ago, but Ethan was talking about his top producer award and you said, "That's nice, dear," without asking details. I tried again at your birthday, Mom. But Dad changed the subject to ask Ethan about his sales pipeline. Ethan found his voice. You manage billions? You sit on company boards? How could we not know? Biz, you never asked. You heard financial analyst, and decided that meant spreadsheets in a cubicle. You assumed my work was less impressive than Ethan's real estate deals because his success is tangible and easy to understand. Margaret Winters approached. Sophie, we should discuss the renovation contractor proposals. Oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting? Not at all. Margaret, this is my family. This is Margaret Winters, she's on the ownership board with me. Margaret shook hands. Wonderful to meet you. You must be very proud of Sophie. Her acquisition strategy was masterful. The Redstone board gave her a standing ovation when she presented the final terms. A standing ovation, Mom echoed faintly. She's being modest, Margaret continued. Sophie negotiated terms that saved Redstone $47 million while preserving all the legacy elements that make clubs like Hartfield special. She's one of the most talented executives in the industry. Shall we discuss those proposals? Of course. Excuse me, I said to my family. I walked away with Margaret, leaving them at the platform's edge. When I finally left the board lounge 30 minutes later, my family was gathered near the entrance, waiting. I approached them. Was there something else? Mom's eyes were red. Sophie, can we please talk? Really talk? We made a terrible mistake. Please let us apologize properly. You can start by actually learning what I do. Not the simplified version you can mention at parties, but the real work. When you're ready to value competence over comprehensibility, then we can talk. The member meeting, Dad said. You said there was no space for me. But you were running the meeting from the ownership board table. Yes. You excluded me because you assumed I wouldn't fit at your members' table. Meanwhile, I was sitting 3 tiers above you at the board table that controls this entire club. I started toward the exit. Mom called after me. Please don't cut us out. We want to do better. I turned back. My membership card grants me 24-hour access to this club. Yours grants standard hours access. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what's printed on our cards. But it's also exactly how our family has worked. You've had limited access to who I actually am because you never wanted full access. That changes now, Dad said firmly. Give us a chance to see you properly. I'll think about it. Right now, I have a conference call with Redstone's CEO about the Q2 acquisition pipeline. I left them in the entrance hall and walked to my BMW parked in the reserved board member spot. Their sedan was in the regular member lot several rows back. Monday, the new membership cards arrived. Mine was platinum with ownership board, embossed beneath my name. Theirs were gold with standard member in smaller text. They called repeatedly that week. I answered eventually, agreeing to coffee. 1 hour. They arrived early, looking anxious. We've been reading about you, Mom said, pulling out printed articles. Business Journal profiles about acquisition strategy. Investment Weekly about emerging CIOs. Interviews about private equity. Sophie, you're quoted as an industry expert. I've been doing this work for 3 years. None of that is new. It's new to us, Dad said quietly. Because we never looked. We assumed we knew the limits of your success based on one job title from years ago. We were wrong. We talked for 2 hours. They asked real questions about my career, the projects I'd managed, the companies I'd acquired. They took notes. They asked for clarification. It wasn't reconciliation. Not yet. But it was a start. Months later, after consistent effort to understand my work and value my achievements, we began rebuilding. They attended a conference where I gave a keynote. They read my quarterly reports. They stopped comparing my success to Ethan's and started appreciating both of us differently. The real consequence wasn't the embarrassment of the meeting. It was the knowledge that they'd spent years celebrating surface success while ignoring substantive achievement. I had space at their table. I'd always had it. They just hadn't been looking at the right table. I continued working at Redstone, leading 2 more major acquisitions over the next year. The Hartfield renovation completed ahead of schedule, and member satisfaction scores reached historic highs. Regional Business Journal named me one of the top 10 executives under 40 in the finance sector. My family attended the awards ceremony. All of them. Dad wore a suit he bought specifically for the occasion. Mom cried when my name was announced. Ethan brought Caroline, and they sat in the audience taking notes during my acceptance speech about acquisition strategy and stakeholder management. Afterward, at the reception, Dad introduced me to his accounting firm colleagues. This is my daughter Sophie. She's the CIO at Redstone Capital Management. She just led an $800 million acquisition of a healthcare facilities portfolio. Not, my daughter who works in finance. Not a vague handwave towards spreadsheets. Specific, accurate, proud. Uncle Douglas approached with Aunt Patricia. Sophie, we'd like to apologize again for the country club situation. We were part of the problem, celebrating what was easy to understand rather than asking questions about what mattered. I appreciate that, I said. At Hartfield, the quarterly member appreciation events became wildly popular. My family attended as gold standard members, never once complaining about their tier level or requesting special treatment because of our relationship. They'd learned the boundary between family and professional spheres. During the holiday season, we gathered for dinner at my parents' house. The conversation flowed naturally between Ethan's real estate projects and my acquisition pipeline. No one dominated. No one was dismissed. Mom asked detailed questions about my work. Dad wanted to understand the financial structures I was building. On the mantle, Dad's display had changed. Ethan's sales awards were still there, but now they shared space with the framed regional business journal cover featuring my profile and the Hartfield ownership board photo showing me at the center table. Equal visibility. Equal celebration. Equal value. It had taken years and a public revelation to get here, but we'd finally found balance. They'd learned to look beyond surface success, and I'd learned that some relationships could be rebuilt. Slowly, with boundaries, with genuine effort from both sides. The country club incident wasn't the end of our family story. It was the beginning of an honest one.